Why LinkedIn? It's the fastest growing platform for really anyone if you're over the age of 30.
Which is many of us.
Yes. I've thought about the privilege that we currently have of having LinkedIn. Imagine people who were trying to move social impact ahead in the 1800s. They would have given their left arm to be able to reach as many people with their message as we could potentially reach it with just 3 months. We trust humans. We don't just trust someone because they have a title. And so the more that you can bring who you are to your digital persona, the more that's going to resonate.
Saralynn Finn, welcome back to Design Tomorrow and to Seymour Studios where we record. There was more to talk about, so I thought let's do another episode.
So much to talk about, Eric. I just have really enjoyed getting to know you over the last few years and especially these last couple of months as we prepared to go to the forum together. And I just really appreciated your support with the workshop that I ran at the Sidebar and having you kind of chime in with your experience on LinkedIn. And just in general, growing your personal brand was amazing. And I'm really excited to share it with your audience here on the pod.
Yeah. So we thank you, first of all, for inviting me to just like crash your awesome session and get to meet some amazing people in Oxford. And I do think there's more to unpack here. And so I'd like to, first of all, just like interview you a little bit and ask you how you came up with this point of view, this framework, this way of showing up specifically on LinkedIn, but I think this applies outside of LinkedIn too. Let's talk about that. Like, why LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Why LinkedIn? It's the fastest growing platform for really anyone if you're over the age of 30.
Which is many of us.
Yes. Okay. So like we can't compete with the TikToks. I don't want to be dancing, at least professionally. But you know, when I show up professionally, that's the place. And there's so much opportunity. But as we were talking about, it's not all about LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
It's about relationship building, and it's about being willing to be visible and vulnerable. And I loved the episode that you dropped recently about visibility and really the connection that it makes to this work that we were already planning on doing, which I think was just, dare I say, cosmic?
It was a little cosmic, yeah. And what I would say is like visibility is this topic that like everyone's thinking about. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about this because we did the episode about visibility. I made a case for why it matters and how to think about it the way that I think about it, at least. And then another episode about point of view, which I think those two things, especially where I think LinkedIn comes in, is like LinkedIn, in my opinion, is the platform where if you have a really strong point of view and a differentiated one, you can get visibility. And that's, you know, always at the whim of the algorithms, and we could get into all that. But I think listeners are probably like, okay, I'm interested in being visible. We know we want to do that. I'm working on developing a point of view, but like, I'm scared. I'm scared to go on LinkedIn. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to be public in my work. And I'm happy to share my experiences with that. I'm sure you've experienced that to a degree as well. But let's start, before we get into all that fun stuff, by just talking about, you have this concept that you call story stems, which is kind of a way, not, I don't think like fully what you should do on LinkedIn, but a nice way to get started if you're first getting into LinkedIn, but also even if you've been there for a while, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, kind of what I want to bring to your audience today is a few hacks to kind of make the threshold between never posting and occasionally posting feel way more achievable, and, you know, something that you could do on a Thursday afternoon before you wrap up your workday. Story stems is one of my favorite. I like to think of them as memes for professionals, right? We're all familiar with memes. Maybe Eric's going to show a meme here.
Yeah. Or Edith, our editor, will show a meme.
Maybe a meme here. We're all familiar with memes. And why memes work is because it's a format that we're familiar with. And then the creator adapts that format in some kind of novel, creative way that connects to the moment, right? So maybe it's Forrest Gump sitting on that bench and it's something witty about something that you've been waiting to happen. We get it. We connect with it. It's understandable. And story stems are like that, but for our copy. So a lot of times people lead with a question or a pattern, right? I think our proliferation of AI LinkedIn posts has really leaned deeply into the pattern, but it's still a good story stem. And the one that I like the most is recently I met, insert someone you met recently. And then what we know from that story stem, from that copy meme, is that you're going to get a post that likely celebrates the person that the poster just met.
Yep.
You're going to get a human moment where they interacted. And you're probably going to get a reason why the poster is sharing that with you, their audience, of why this matters, what resonates, what's the insight here that this person gave that connects. So to me, the story stem, it's a very evidence-based option, right? These different options that I laid out, the insight, the pattern, I met someone. Story stems, posts with familiar patterns, get 3 times the engagement as posts that don't have a story stem.
Interesting. Okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So first of all, I should just say that one of my favorite life cycles of me posting on LinkedIn was when I was very actual meme heavy in my posting, and I'm feeling like I want to bring that back. And they actually performed better than some of my more serious posts. Not totally surprising. But what I'm picking up from these story stems is that they're a hack because they kind of build in this human moment. And I think what I've noticed about...
I'm going to correct you.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
They're a hack because they build in something that's the audience can expect. The audience knows what they're going to get.
There's a format that's familiar.
Format that's familiar. And we love novelty. Novelty is what we're looking for, but it's like we want a small amount of novelty.
Okay.
And that's what the algorithm is kind of oriented towards, unfortunately, is giving us something in packaging that's familiar, but with just something little new.
Yeah, I resonate with that. And I think there's these like cycles. Like I have spent a lot of time thinking about like what breaks through and why. And like even just as I've been publishing for a long time, off of LinkedIn, on LinkedIn as well. And I'm happy to share kind of my current, maybe not ideal state of LinkedIn posting. What I would say is that like it seems to be that there are these ebbs and flows of patterns, right? So you talk about story stems working and being evidence-based because there's these patterns. And what I've noticed is that like there's a certain point where I think there's some patterns that are durable, that are going to work always, right? And I think like that third example that I picked up on being the human side is maybe one of them, maybe not. But then there's these moments where the patterns get oversaturated and there's like a new, totally novel pattern or approach that starts to break through. That's like literally a pattern interruption. And that pattern interruption is like, oh, I noticed that, right? If I'm scrolling my LinkedIn feed or whoever it is, and all the posts look like AI slop, and then there's one that's just like some dude who's like, hey, everybody, like that becomes a pattern interruption. And so I'd be curious to hear how you think about, again, like you have these hacks, these story stems that are tried and true, they're evidence-based. Like if we're talking to listeners who are like just wanting to get started, like I love that easy on-ramp, right?
Yes.
And at a certain point, like how do you know how long to ride that and when it might be time to think about inventing a new pattern or a new story stem?
I think that when you have like achieved your goals for visibility is when you start to mix it up. But I think that in terms of training the algorithm on who you are and who you want to reach and who you want to be seen by, stick with like what we know works. Yeah. And while you're getting comfortable with the posting and figuring out the posting cadence that actually works for your real life on top of all of your other responsibilities, I don't want to minimize the impact that posting on LinkedIn has. And in fact, I'd love to share a story from Madeline Ballard, who's, I think her title is Executive Director of Community Health Impact Coalition, a 2025 Skoll awardee, among other, amazing accolades and work that they've had in making it so that millions of people, potentially billions, all around the world have access to community health workers.
Amazing.
I mean, she's incredible. And she was really anti-posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I think that her point of view is going to resonate and sound really familiar with a lot of your viewers and listeners. She felt like, who am I to be posting on LinkedIn? I'm a white woman. I'm leading this global organization. The people who are doing the work should be the people that are out in front, and they should be the ones that are visible. Okay, so that's a common one. I don't have time to do this. This is not mission oriented. This is not going to move the mission forward of the organization. It's vanity. It's ego.
Yep.
It feels promotional.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the what if I get it wrong?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, yes, sometimes we get it wrong. So
everybody gets it wrong.
That's like,
yeah.
Sometimes they're going to come for you in the comments, and that's the risk that we take in being visible. So I don't want to discount that. But so Madeline didn't want to post on LinkedIn, and she had a comms person who said, hey, what if we just did a 90-day pilot and tried it out and saw what the results were? And she was so angry at the end of the 90-day pilot to see how successful it was in growing her organization and her personal impact.
Yeah.
After 90 days, she said she had more inbound press inquiries than they'd ever had. Her warm introductions were getting responses. She got outreached to by a publication that she had submitted, a journal that she had submitted articles to multiple times, saying, hey, would you be willing to write an article for us?
Yeah, the ones I submitted.
She was like, of course. And, there were funding doors opening. I mean, look, Madeline is a powerhouse. Chic is an incredible coalition, built on an amazing strategy. So I'm not going to say that everyone who posts on LinkedIn for 90 days is going to experience these incredible results. But what if?
Yeah.
What could just doing it for 90 days what could that impact be for you and your organization? And it doesn't have to be original, right? You're probably not a comms person.
Yeah.
You're probably feeling like creativity is not a thing that you have the energy for in this realm, especially if you haven't seen it deliver impact for you yet. I will tell you, once Madeline saw the impact that posting regularly and with some intention delivered, she's on board. And now, I highly recommend that you follow her on LinkedIn if you don't already, because her posts are really great. And I mean, do what she's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is making me feel guilty that I am not running a better LinkedIn motion right now for myself and for Cosmic. And yeah, I mean, I think all of the reasons that you outlined are common objections that I hear and that I resonate with. I love doing our show, and I love having a podcast, and I love sharing ideas and getting feedback from users. And I still cringe when I hear my voice or see myself on camera. And I do, I have some worry about being, public in my work. And at the same time, I've also felt at times that people who have that point of view, there's lots of reasons why you might come to that conclusion. Sometimes it's also I said this in a recent episode, and it's a little bit of a contrarian take, but it's kind of get over yourself. You're not that special. You can post on LinkedIn too. You're not so special that you are not too good, but that you don't deserve. It's no, we need to share ideas in this space.
Okay. So I have thought about this. I've thought about the privilege that we currently have of having LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Imagine people who are trying to move social impact ahead in the 1800s.
Right.
They would have like given their left arm to be able to reach as many people with their message as we could potentially reach it with just 3 months.
Huge point. I mean, like when like it's
get
like
over yourself.
Carrier pigeon is your main. Yeah. Hey friends, real quick before we continue today's episode. I'm Eric Ressler, founder and creative director at Cosmic. Cosmic is a creative agency purpose-built for nonprofits and mission-driven organizations. For the last 15 years, we've helped leaders like you nail your impact story and sharpen your strategy. But we're not here to just leave you with a fancy slide deck and a pat on the back. We roll up our sleeves and help you bring our ideas to life through campaigns, creative, and digital experiences. Our work together helps you earn trust, connect deeply with your supporters, and grow your fundraising and your impact. If you value the thinking we share here and want it applied to your biggest challenges, let's talk at designbycosmic.com. All right, back to today's conversation. So here, let me reflect back some thoughts in real time, because like I'm gonna just come out with an honest statement. I'm feeling a little burnt out by LinkedIn right now. And it's my own fault, because I truly do believe that, you know, you can complain about the algorithm and like visibility and reach and like the incentives of you know, these companies, the attention economy
yes.
in general, all of that. And, you know, at some level, like I believe there are real problems that need to be solved there. And at the same time, like it is such a gift if you approach it with the right intentions. And there was a moment in time where I had this real focus around like, I'm going to be dedicated to posting more regularly, to getting clear about like what my modality is going to be for posting and my vibe, and to like learn and like get data and like work on that. And I think there was a lot of really good lessons learned there. But if I can reflect on where I went too far and what I'm hoping to change, and when I do come back in a more meaningful way, I felt like at a certain point I was posting out of obligation instead of inspiration. And I think that's what a lot of people feel like who get past the initial hump and start to say, I need to do 3 days a week, or like, you know, this is something we heard this in our session. And there's a kernel of truth to like cadence for sure. But what I found is that when I post, when I feel inspired to post, like those posts tend to do better. And like my most successful by metrics, meaning like reach, engagement, resonance, inbound, like all the things you might measure to, you know, define success about emotion like this. The posts that I just typed out kind of like on a whim because something irked me or because I had an idea with my thumbs always perform way better than the ones that I had like a nice piece of art like pre-scheduled and posted for. So like, what are your reflections on all of that?
Oof, okay, both matter, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to do the KOL, the keeping the lights on posts.
Yeah.
That are putting ourselves out there for the building the muscle aspect of doing the thing and getting comfortable and learning, right? The only way that we learn about what works for our audience is by experimenting. So if you're not giving your comms team the room to learn and experiment, that's maybe a little aside. And when you do have the zeitgeist of the moment, or you see something that you just can't let go and you want to post about it, that's amazing. Like, and that practice of writing and posting is what will remind you, oh, I have an idea, I should post that, as opposed to just talking about it with your spouse over dinner, or like kvetching about it to your colleague over Slack, right? It's like, we have a million ideas a day, most likely, and probably a handful of them could make great posts if we were oriented towards a channel.
Yeah, and so let's break that down a little bit more, because like what I'm hearing you say is that you need a little bit of both. You need some amount of structure, because you use the word like practice, and I think that's a really good word. The other word I would use is muscle. Like it's like it is a muscle, and there is a certain amount of it that's just like doing the reps.
Mm-hmm.
A, to get faster at it, so it's not as big of an impact on your schedule as an executive. And B, because you'll actually make better content doing it that way.
And I'm going to add a C.
Add a C.
C, to quiet the chatter, the no in your mind, right? To give you that confidence to be like, shh.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's science to back that up. Like one of the practices that I've become familiar with is like upon waking, doing like a stream of consciousness journaling to just like get the noise out of your brain. And actually, I think that's a great just like hack or tip is like when you're like, what should I post about? I have a scratch pad of just like idea seeds that live with me and whatever, my Apple Notes or even app that's like, this might be a podcast episode or this might be a post one day. And I think that's a great way to like, what usually happens is you come back to those ideas and you're like, wow, all of these ideas were except that one's actually really good still. Let's do that one. Yeah.
Glad I didn't post any of those.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But let's just break down, like, do you need to post 3 times a week or every single day? Like, what's your point of view on that?
Heck no.
Yeah. Okay, good. Glad to hear that. I agree, by the way.
Yes. Okay, good. I think, how often can I offer my audience something that's valuable?
Yeah. Right.
And that's going to vary. And it's going to vary by season. It's going to vary by where your organization is in its process, and what's going on in your personal life.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's fair. And that gives me a little permission to be less active than I have been in the past.
Anything that you've done that you do is better than doing nothing.
Yes.
And that's a bar. And maybe eventually you want to raise the bar for yourself. But I think, who I'm speaking to is the executive director who does all of their energy goes into their program, and none of their energy really has the time to go into cultivating their identity or their reputation as a thought leader or as someone who is a connector publicly. And that's why I think the encouragement of our workshop was to uplift other people's ideas.
Yep.
Because that is the fastest way for both of you to become visible and then get that support.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things I'm reflecting on as you say that is we have our Spotlight series where we do interviews with social impact executive directors and leaders, and on this show. And I love posting those because it's like I get to post something that's not about me. And the people who I choose to interview on the show are people that I'm genuinely interested in like learning from and sharing their perspective. So those posts are such a joy for me because I just like it does relieve that pressure. And I have other posts that I do as well, and I have been significantly less consistent than I have in the past, and I can break down why in a little bit. But I want to also make something I think really important clear. A clear distinction between, are we talking about like brand pages on LinkedIn, or are we talking about personal pages? Should this be the ED? Should it be the comms director? Who should be posting in like what method?
Yeah, that's a great question. So personal pages have the highest likelihood of having your ideas travel far. Yeah. Unfortunately, the brand page should be, I don't know, like an archive almost
on LinkedIn. Just turn them off.
Relic? Yeah. I don't know what to call it. It's not a place where you're going to get as much dynamic interaction, which is just how it works, right? We're relational beings and our algorithms can't overcome that as much as we want them to. So definitely it should be on, your individual page. And if you and your comms team has the capacity for your comms team to do some support of this, that's great. If not, go ahead and do it on your own. And I think that both your organization's POV and your POV can exist on your page. And that differentiation is important. And your perspective on the work of your organization is ultimately what people want to be hearing. So it shouldn't just be a copy paste, Claude, can you rearrange these words for me of the post that the brand did, right? It should really be, how are you connected to this post? What are you celebrating if you're sharing a post from your organization?
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that to me, if it's either the algorithm or just human psychology or a combination of the two. That's the kind of stuff that I'm personally more interested in, that I find myself engaging with, is like, I don't want to see the company line. Like, that's great. If I want to learn that, I'm going to go to your website and read it. I think it's important to have a company page that is accurate and like shows that it's alive and real. That's maybe even reposting some of the staff content. That's how we run the Cosmic page, probably not as consistently as we should. And the Design Tomorrow page. It's just like, we're not investing any time or thought into those pages. Everything's coming through my personal page on LinkedIn, because to your point, it is a personal platform. But I think that like the stories that feel the most like raw and human, and I'm not talking about like, I don't need to know everything about your personal life, overshares or like trauma dumping or anything like that, but just like, give me the raw, uncut stuff, right? That's just like, hey, this is what we're struggling with right now. Anyone have any tips? Like, I'd love to see more of that content in the social impact space. Hey, we had this intervention that we tried and it didn't go as well as we thought. Here's maybe why. Anyone done something similar, right? And like, that's a tough thing to sell.
Absolutely. I wish that our sector was not as allergic to admitting failure as it feels like we are.
It's tough though, right? Because then like, wait, now donors are like less, do these guys know what they're doing? And funders, same thing. But I think that's a little bit of a trap. I don't think it's actually true that that's a problem. As long as you're smart about how you do it. And again, not oversharing.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking to listeners here. They're sold. They're like, yes, okay, LinkedIn is the place for me. The time thing is real, right? If you're an executive director, let's say you have a comms team, or even if you don't, I think this has to be original content from the ED at some level. Do you agree?
I agree. And I think that this taps into your kind of point of view on having a point of view.
Yeah. Okay, we're going real meta.
We're going really meta. You have to be visible in the letters, the characters that you're writing, in the ideas that you're sharing. And I think that it can feel like, oh, am I going to get feedback from my board for sharing something publicly in a way that is like not exactly aligned with my organization? Of course you're aligned with your organization. You just also are a human and have your own take on this and can share your journey with this topic. You can share kind of how you see this playing out in your day-to-day, right? Being visible in this is what is, like you said, going to be like moving it forward with a broader audience than you might normally reach. And that's like what is going to make it so that when, you know, someone gives you an introduction to someone else and they go and they check out your page and they see, oh, look, this is a human, not just a title.
Yeah.
And I trust that. Right? We trust humans. We don't just trust someone because they have a title. And so the more that you can bring who you are to your digital persona, the more that's going to resonate.
I think that's a muscle too. And like, because I feel like early in my LinkedIn posting and even early in the podcast content that we were doing, I felt this pressure, right? Of just like, I need to be an expert and I need to share expert tips. And more and more, I think it's really about just like, hey, here's what I'm thinking about and here's what's interesting me and here's observations and things that I've learned, and not trying to make everything a teachable moment necessarily, unless it really is one and I want to share that. What's your take on that?
I mean, I'm going to use the word that I think everyone's tired of, but authenticity.
Yeah, 100%.
It matters.
Yeah.
Right? People can feel it.
Yeah.
Instantly.
And you can feel it when you're not being authentic. Like I've typed stuff that I'm just like, is this me?
Cringe.
And that's always a bit of a struggle. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the most time consuming part, right? Is, okay, here's my idea. This is what I want to share. But then how do I bring myself, my professional self to it, my personal self to it in a way that feels authentic? But that's ultimately what thrives. And I think that the more that folks in our space can get used to this, the more we're going to make the folks on our comms teams' lives easier, because I see so often where the personality gets sanitized out of the brand voice, or we want to work with a collaborator, an influencer, a surrogate, and the process is painful to get to a yes on messaging that feels authentic for them and that, stays within the brand guardrails. And so the more that executives get used to what it feels like for them to show up visibly in their work, it's going to ease the way for more successful communications, because we know that diversity in voices and kind of everyone singing in the choir at different levels is what is the future of successful communications.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think, like a lot of things with comms, I always feel like individual political campaigns are always a little bit of a step ahead around trends in communications, and sometimes in good ways, sometimes not in good ways. But there's been this huge, sector-wide learning around, especially coming out of the last election cycle, about hey, candidates need to be real people. They can't just be packaged versions of the DNC. And when you see candidates winning, and, we'll throw out Mandami, one of the reasons he's been so successful is because whether or not you agree with his politics, I believe that dude is legit. I believe he cares about the things he says he cares about. And he's bringing his whole self into his campaign. And so I think there's this, again, political campaigns and political candidates always are a step ahead of social impact campaigns and comms, in my opinion, in my experience. And I'm seeing a lot more of that start to happen for social impact organizations that maybe for a long time were humming along just great. The executive director was not a household name, and funding was flowing, and now we're in a very different ecosystem from a media standpoint, from a digital standpoint, and from a funding standpoint. And I don't think it's going to fly anymore.
Absolutely not. I am so excited to see the trend of executive directors that are really putting themselves out there, and beyond just the ED, right? Program officers, or, impact leaders within, the specific issue areas are, more and more putting some energy and thoughtfulness into how they show up on behalf of their organization, but also just on behalf of their cause.
Yeah, 100%. I think another thing I'd like to reflect on as we work towards wrapping this up, and this is I'm saying this out loud almost for myself at some level, but also for our listeners. I think LinkedIn especially is a platform that you kind of get into it, or you get out of it what you put into it. And so yes, there's trash on LinkedIn. There's AI slop on LinkedIn. There's negativity and hate on LinkedIn. It's not a perfect platform, but what you actually interact with and what you put out into the platform is what you're going to get back. And so I've met incredible people because of being on LinkedIn that are dear friends of mine and colleagues and coworkers and schemers. And that worked because I posted, I had things that resonated, and I, slid into their DMs, and we got to actually meet and then meet in person.
There are people out there looking for you.
Yeah.
They want to find you, and you need to give them a signal to find.
Yeah.
This, humility does not require invisibility.
Yes. That's amazing. That's our episode title right there.
So, you're just there being your little beacon of you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of sonar, boop.
Yep.
Boop.
Yep.
Boop. Okay, maybe sometimes your frequency goes boop. Boop. That's fine. But the LinkedIn algorithm has a longer cadence than all of the other platforms, right?
Yeah.
Your post doesn't actually reach its maximum impressions or views until about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So, it takes a while to kind of understand what signals are working. And your post has a pretty long lifespan. If you are commenting on other folks' posts, or, your friends are commenting on your post, that is going to extend the timeline for the reach of your post up to, I've seen about 2 months.
Yeah.
Right? Some posts that come up in my feed are about 2 months old, and I'm always like, oh, hi.
Yeah.
This is actually not topically relevant to the world that we live in anymore, because we're in a new war, or,
or whatever tragedy has happened.
Yeah. Or something else has happened. But, oh, cool. Okay, good to know. And then I see oh my gosh, the comments are alive and happening.
Yeah.
That's why this has happened. And LinkedIn absolutely prioritizes your profile based on your comment activity as well. So if you're afraid to get out there and be putting yourself out there at first, maybe just dip your toe into the comments.
I think that's a great place to start. And for the episode, I think a great place to end.
Yes.
Saralynn, this has been awesome. We could go on forever about posting on LinkedIn, but hopefully this inspires some people. It's inspiring me to get back in the game a little bit.
Awesome.
In a way.
Can I offer to your viewers and your audience, we are doing a like LinkedIn peer support learning kind of group that I'm leading and helping to facilitate, kind of based around our workshop that we did at the forum. And hopefully Eric can like put it in the show notes or on the webpage or something. And I'm happy to have your folks jump in to kind of, you know, get some support on this. We've all been, you know, boosting each other's experiment.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, that sounds like a great way for listeners to get started. But yes, Saralynn, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe, or even leave us a comment. It really helps. Thank you. And thank you for all that you do for your cause and for being part of the movement to move humanity and the planet forward.